What's up? What is up? How's everybody doing? Let me know in the chat if I'm sounding good. Everything's coming through all right, and I'll start yapping to you good people. Hope everyone enjoyed themselves uh, on election night last night. Okay. So, all right, sounds good. Let's fucking do it. All right. So I didn't have an episode of Part of the Problem scheduled until tomorrow, so I figured I would just jump on and bullshit with you guys for a little bit before then. We're gonna do an election recap episode, but I figured there'll be more results, and so we'll have more to talk about then. Might as well just jump on here and talk about some of what we know already from what happened on election day yesterday. Pretty crazy one, pretty interesting, I think. And obviously, there's a lot more results that still will be coming in. We haven't figured it all out yet, but we've figured out a lot that I think is gonna. There's nothing that's going to happen in the next few days or few weeks that change some of these kind of like big picture things that we've learned. So, all right, I'm curious also to hear from you guys what your guys' thoughts are. So let me just start off with a few, I think, pretty obvious takeaways from from this midterm election. Uh, Number one, disaster for Republicans. I mean, just a disaster. I guess you could say, I know there's a lot of people trying to kind of as always happens with politics, people always kind of have excuses and figure out a way to hold on to their preconceived ideas and their tribal loyalties and stuff like that. But this is just really bad. I suppose it could have been worse, but within the realm of what was at all possible to happen, this was just about a worst case scenario for Republicans. There were some key wins, but look, this was a substantially worse than typical midterm election result for the non-incumbent party. And to think that under the current situation, after years, 2+ years of the COVID regime, which was really obviously Republicans were guilty in perpetrating that on the American people as well, but Democrats really owned it a lot more than Republicans did. Um, with the inflation at record highs, crime drastically going up. I mean, if you couldn't put together a red wave after that, I don't know what to say. Republicans, just for some perspective, did substantially better in 2010 with what I would argue is a better economy. I mean, it was only a couple years after the Great Recession, but I'd still say a better economy than today, a much more competent president than today. None of the issues with crime surges in major cities and stuff like this. And this is still going up against Joe Biden, which always midterm elections are always a referendum on the incumbent president. There was a poll, I think it was a CNN poll that showed something over 70% of Americans thought the country was on the wrong track. I mean, with those type of like fundamentals, to not be able to have substantial gains is really a disaster. And I think in a lot of ways, it's very bad for the Republican Party. I also think it's pretty bad for the country. As fucked up as the two-party, system is, they're basically, the way this thing works is that when one party fucks up too bad, they throw it over to the other party and punish that party. And then that party fucks up and you throw it back. This is, just how it's always worked throughout my entire life. And for the Democratic Party to not be significantly punished, even just if it's for show, even if it doesn't really change anything, just at least to send a message that voters reject this stuff, for that not to happen is it's really quite something. It's quite something. I said I don't know if you guys caught the last episode of Part of the Problem, which was released yesterday. So it was before voting started, we recorded it. And I said that I was kind of skeptical of this red wave happening. I wasn't sure though. There were a lot of fundamentals that would have led me to believe that now, come on, this has got to be a good election for Republicans. But there was something about, as I said, that Joe Biden and his entire administration. It's not like this was just an off the cuff flub by Joe Biden who said something stupid, which he's prone to do. Um, but he was saying you must accept the results of the election, and there's going to be all these election deniers, and I was just saying, like, I think they think they're going to do quite well here, and I don't know why that is. People can have different theories on that, but I was like, this is not the rhetoric of a party that's concerned that they're about to get their asses handed to them, and they didn't. We'll still see, I guess. Republicans might end up with the slimmest of majorities in the Senate. Possibly they won't. And they gained a few seats in the House, it looks like, but man, really not much. Okay, so big losers are the Republicans. Um, right after that, that being like my number one takeaway of these midterms. The second one, which I do think is really big, is I believe last night Donald Trump lost the party and Ron DeSantis took it. I think that he's now the guy in the Republican Party. It was just the the Trump backed Republicans really underperformed, and Ron DeSantis really performed well. Won a dominant victory in Florida. To keep in mind, just for everyone keeps in mind here, Florida has been a swing state for my whole life. Florida's a purple state. Florida has many times been the deciding state in presidential elections. And Ron DeSantis was elected in 2018, I think it was, by an incredibly slim margin. He had a dominant victory last night, and so that says something that things have changed quite a bit. And I think we are seeing, in many ways, um, uh, political realignment in this country. Realignment of a lot of different things. There's been things have really changed in this country over the last few years, and so it looks like this may be a whole different Florida that we have now, and a whole different leader of the Republican Party. So that to me was like the number two biggest takeaway of this whole thing. I think that I just saw. I'm looking over here at the comment section. I see someone here says Michael said DeSantis won't challenge Trump if he runs. I'm not sure that's true anymore. I'm not sure that's true. DeSantis is Donald Trump came out and took a shot at Ron DeSantis. What do you call it? The sanctimonious or something like that, a couple days before he was up for an election. And then DeSantis goes on and crushes it. And Trump's whole movement had a really rough night. I think Donald Trump is in trouble. I think that he's there. There doesn't seem to be any indication to me that he's going to do better in 2024 than he was able to do in 2020 or 2016. I mean, I think his peak has come and gone in terms of like being in touch with the moment of American politics, and I think it makes a lot of sense that look, Donald Trump, and I know I've argued with this with some other people. I've had a couple public debates on this topic. Um, Donald Trump's last year in office was 2020, and you can make as many excuses as you want for that. Like, oh, it wasn't his fault, it was everybody else's fault. But I don't know. He is the one who declared the national state of emergency. He kept Fauci on the job throughout all of 2020. And of course, he's still bragging about Operation Warp Speed and all that stuff. And so if you're the president and you run on winning, and I've got the best brain and I put all the right people around me and I know how to win, and your last year in office is 2020, the worst year for the American people in my lifetime, it's just that's going to be a tough position. That's going to be a tough position to be in. So I don't know what to say that Yeah, on top of that, I also think that there's just a lot of, like, Trump fatigue. The people are just over it. They're over his craziness, the craziness that the response to him brings, and, the very bad night for Donald Trump. Okay, we talk about a few more things. What is, let me know, what do you guys wanna talk about next? There's several races that were interesting. Someone, tag me, mention my name, and tell me which one you want me to talk about, and then we'll go to that. All right, Fetterman, getting a lot of Fetterman because wow, yeah. What can you say? I gotta say that one really, that one surprised me. That one surprised me. I will say I thought that he was just I didn't think that this Dr. Oz guy was the best candidate. I didn't think people in Pennsylvania loved him, but I thought that Fetterman was so, um, terrifyingly, uh, incapacitated that just enough people couldn't deal with voting for him, but they did. They did. And yeah, that's something. Man, if you're Dr. Oz, that one's got to hurt. That's got to hurt to lose to a guy who can't talk. I don't know what else to say. I feel bad in a way for the guy. It's a sad thing to watch someone after a stroke not be able to speak, but man, it was really something that the voters sent him to the US Senate. He's a senator now? Is that real? Oh man, it's going to be interesting to watch the clips coming out of him. Okay, let me get back to I really don't know what else to say about it. Um uh, oh, Fat Dave, what's up? Fuck you, Fat Dave. Says touch on the Republicans complaining about libertarian spoilers. Well, I mean, you'd almost have to go like race by race and to see like whether there's really a legitimate complaint there or not. But I mean, my initial reaction to that is just like, come on, man. Like given these fundamentals and who you're up against, like you can't beat Fetterman. Stop pointing the fingers at anyone else and realize that maybe this is you. Sorry. I mean, like what are we supposed to say? That's right. You guys have been so goddamn awful forever. And in every sense of the word, you have failed to stop the progressive train. In many cases, you're jumping on it and just arguing with them about how fast we should be going. And you have you just got to be good on stuff. Be good on some things. Threw my support behind Blake Masters, and I'm like, I think there are some libertarians who are like real, complete purists, and if you're not great on everything, they're not going to support you. Okay, if you're talking about those libertarians, then they were never in play for you anyway, right? Like if there are libertarians who, no matter how good a Republican is, if he's not perfectly libertarian, they're not going to support you. Well, then that person wasn't going to vote for you anyway. But there's a lot more libertarians who are like myself, who are like, just be good on some things, and you could win our support. If libertarians are ruining these elections for Republicans, well, then Republicans, here's what you got to do: be good on a few things. I mean, tell me right now, I'm sure there's a lot of libertarians listening to this right now. Let's just say hypothetically that Republicans ran on and really meant it, and we're going to really do everything they could to implement this, right? Let's say they just went, okay, we are for we are really committed to like sound money, to really opposing the Federal Reserve, destroying the currency. We're going to repeal the capital gains taxes on gold and Bitcoin and all this stuff, and let these kind of have like competing currencies, and we're going to support defend the guard and constitutional carry. We're going to make those serious Republican priorities. Do you think they could win a whole lot of our support? Yeah, I think they could. Okay, so that's what you got to do. I'm not even asking you to I'm not even saying you have to take positions that will be like, that would be a death blow for you with the rest of your base. Like, I understand there are some libertarians who might want that. I am ideologically a complete pure libertarian, but I'm practical when it comes to politics. I understand the real world we live in. I understand you're not going to go out there and say, all cops are evil or some shit like that, right? Like, I get that. But how about just those few things? That wouldn't turn off your base at all. It would just show you were serious. So I'm sorry. It's really something for Republicans to be coming up with like all of these fucking excuses for why it's libertarians' fault that they lost. Like maybe you guys need to get your shit together. Now out there in Pennsylvania, you're literally losing to a person who can't speak. Maybe it's you. Just maybe. Okay. What let me look through these comments a little bit. Any other specific races that you guys want me to talk about? All right, Blake Masters. Yeah, I don't I saw doo-doo-doo-doo. But last I looked at it, he was like 90,000 votes behind with about 66%. And here, I'll check real quick and get the latest on that. Maybe it's changed. 1 second here. That was the last I saw, I believe. 90,000 votes behind. Yep, still the same. Still the same. 90,000 votes behind with 66 reporting. Um, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. He's closed the gap a little bit. I think he was down bigger than that at one point. So yeah, was not doing as well as he was as polling. I guess we'll see what ends up happening with that one. I don't know. I guess I'll talk more about it after we have the results. I mean, I still think that I think it was I still stand by, supporting him, and I think he would if Mark Kelly ends up winning and he loses, that is much worse than Blake Masters winning. So we'll see. Yeah, Isaac makes a good point. Miami-Dade flipping to DeSantis. That was pretty interesting. And that was part of, my feeling that this DeSantis really took ownership of the party yesterday. That says something. If DeSantis can flip counties, can appeal to people, who to blue and lots of formerly purple counties. That's something. Now, of course, this is in Florida. There, he's going to have a much stronger pitch because the truth is that I think a lot of Floridians know that life was much better for them over the last 3 years because Ron DeSantis was the governor compared to what it would have been if there was a Democrat in charge. I mean, that's a powerful thing. All right, let's see. I'll keep going through the chat. Give me any other races or anything else you guys want to talk about. Yep, Rand Paul won a solid race. His opponent, that guy, what was his name, Booker or whatever, really ran a fucking disgusting campaign against him. So calling him all types of racist and shit like that. So he was that was nice to see him win. Stacey Abrams and Beto O'Rourke, will they finally go away? Fat Dave asks. I don't know. I don't know if they're going away, but it was kind of satisfying to see both of them lose. They both deserve very much to lose. And I like that Stacey Abrams, I think she's already bitching about how it was unfair. It's kind of just hilarious. But yeah. Georgia runoff, you think lib votes swing GOP? I don't know. It's an interesting question. I saw people blaming that Chase guy for the runoff or whatever, but for costing the Republicans the seat. I don't know if I really buy that one. I think that if you've seen Chase at all, I have a tough time believing that like the vast majority of his votes would have been voting Republican if they weren't voting for him. I think he has a lot of his messaging style probably appeals more to Democrats than Republicans. And in fact, if that's the case, I don't know. I haven't like seen any like exit polling or anything on that. I don't know who he was drawing from. I'm just guessing. But if that is the case, he actually, the Democrat in the race, I'm blanking on his name, he was, I think, half a percentage point from getting over 50%, and then there wouldn't have been a runoff. So it's actually quite possible that the Libertarian candidate in that race caused the runoff. So it's hard to know these things. That one specifically, I do not believe that I don't believe that Chase dude was costing the Republicans the election. But I could be wrong about that. I'd be open to seeing some exit polling or something like that if it showed he was polling a lot more Republicans, and I guess it's possible. Um, Isaac asks, if the party were to run another Jorgensen type candidate, would you throw your support behind DeSantis if he was the nominee? No. Well, first off, they're not going to run another Jorgensen type candidate. That's not going to happen. But no, no, I wouldn't. I think that DeSantis is and with all these things, you have to see what happens. There's a lot of time between now and 2024. Um, DeSantis was, I think, after initially not being so great, became a great governor on the COVID stuff. And I think he's been very committed to fighting back against like woke stuff and but he's been a real opponent of the regime. The problem is that, DeSantis's foreign policy, which is completely taken out of the equation when you're the governor, becomes the most important thing about a president, and he's very, very bad in that department, or at least used to be. So I don't know. I mean, is it possible that in the course of fighting against the regime, he's woken up and realized how evil the whole regime is? I suppose. I don't think I don't think that's the reality. And no, he wouldn't get my support. No, I don't think I'd support Jorgensen if she ran either. But of course, Jorgensen's not going to be the nominee again for the Libertarian Party, so that's not really an issue. But I don't think I would support DeSantis. I mean, I'll always leave the door open to like, hey, I don't know if somewhere between now and then he gets his hold on like some Murray Rothbard books and he's like, whoa, my mind's been blown and this is what I'm all about now. I suppose anything's possible, but highly, highly unlikely. Um, MAGA RIP. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the populist right is dead at all. I mean, I think the populist right is the future of the right wing in this country. I think the Trump being the leader of it is probably that's probably a thing of the past. That would be my guess, at least. Who knows? Politics these days are very hard to predict. But also a lot of other things is that what's going to happen now, I think, after last night, is that the never Trump Republicans are going to smell blood in the water. I think they're going to think. I think the chances of Liz Cheney running for president went way up last night. I think they're going to come out. I think they're still going to get smacked down and destroyed because even though Donald Trump may not be the leader anymore, I still think the base hates the neocon establishment type. So but we'll see what happens with all of that. But it will be interesting to see. All right, what else we got here? Um. Okay, Mitchell writes, do you see the collaboration between Victor and Masters turning into a trend? This is the first instance of the Libertarian Party extorting, quote, the Republicans like we should. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like there's not that many races where this can be done. I think if the libertarian strategy is going to be that we will spoil elections for really bad Republicans, then that only works if there's a carrot and a stick. Because if you're just doing it all the time, no matter what, then it doesn't mean anything. But if you're like, oh, but occasionally, if someone comes to us and really, is like, okay, look, no, I have a background in libertarianism. I've read all the libertarian shit. I'm going to be a liberty senator. And then you give, you throw your support behind them. That would be good. It wasn't done in the perfect way. It was still, as you said, kind of the first instance of this happening. And hopefully there can be more of that. The thing is that there's not that many opportunities to, because the vast majority of Republicans are just trash. That's the truth. Dave Smith, when on Sitch and Adam, I believe we rescheduled for this Sunday. Yeah, I'd talked to Kurt Metzger, my buddy Kurt Metzger, who's like a great comedian. and he had said, he reached out to me about it and was like, "Oh, they wanna have you on." I guess they were, like, criticizing me for my Ukraine take or something like that. I haven't seen it. I'll watch it before I go on. But I agreed to go on, I think, last Sunday, and, I was moving and the internet guy didn't show up when he was supposed to. So he was a day late, and so I didn't have internet, so I couldn't do it. But I agreed. I gotta check my text. I believe we rescheduled for next Sunday. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about those guys, but I'm happy to go do that. I'll go argue with them about Ukraine because I'm right about all that shit. All right, what do we got here? Let Jimmy Dore travel into it. Into what? Uh, I'll have to check out Michael Malice on The Blaze. Yeah, he was on last night. I popped on for a few minutes. Glenn Beck interviewed me for like 10 minutes or something on there last night. Michael Malice was on their big panel. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Walker Warnock just officially became a runoff. Any predictions? I think it's like as close to a toss up as you could imagine. I think it's a flip of a coin right now. I wouldn't make any prediction on it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. All right, let's see. Cape Winston, I thought Shane Hazel would do a lot better. Yeah, I mean, I think Shane Hazel's great. It's tough. It's tough. Running on third parties in these races is a tough thing. You know, I thought he did a fantastic job in that debate that he was in. So I don't know what else you can do, man. Um, he says Adam from Sitchin. Adam is a Keynesian MMT proponent. Gross. All right, maybe we'll talk about that. Um, the squad winning again makes you doubt this country. Well, look, man, I mean, there's a lot of things from the election the other night to make you doubt the country. But here's I think that like there's almost like two sides to this, right? You got to be real about it and be real about where we are and what's going on here. And the truth is that the last 3 years or 2 plus years, like the whole COVID insanity, this doesn't happen unless there was a large amount of support for it. And yes, a lot of people were propagandized into that support, but whatever, the support worked, or the propaganda worked, I should say, and people supported it. If you read about like really crazy, brutal authoritarian regimes throughout history, it's the people get really into it. I'm not saying all of them, but like a lot. A lot of people get really into it and they fall in line and they like the idea of having these strong men leaders and they like the idea of demonizing those who don't fall in line. And like I'm sure everyone listening to this knows, right? There were a lot of people, probably people probably people very close in proximity to you, neighbors of yours, other parents at your school's kids who would have been quite okay with your life being ruined for maybe not wanting to get vaccinated, or not wanting to be locked down, wanting to, whatever, g- see your family on Christmas or something like that. They would have been okay with like really horrible things happening to you. And that there's a lot of people like that. And the fact is that even after having 2 plus years of their lives stolen from them, they're okay with that. That's reality, and it's something we've all got to accept and grapple with, that a lot of these people, the same way we found out in COVID, like, I think there was almost like this split where a lot of people are like, "Wait, you can't just take my life away from me." But then there's a whole other group of people who are kind of, like, happy to just stay home. They were happy to stay in their boxers and live life on Zoom and not have to go to work anymore. "Oh, there's a check in the mail? I'll just order Seamless and watch some Netflix," you know? There are a lot of people like that. And these people, uh, were, you know, th they get to vote too. So that there is something about, yeah, the state of the country is that a lot of people buy into this bullshit. That's the truth. And not only buy into it, but they're quite okay with the rest of us being crushed for not buying into it. So that's one aspect where it's a little depressing and does make you wonder about the future of the country. What I think the silver lining in all of this is, and I hope that a lot of Republicans can kind of wake up to this, that y- your hope for winning back the country is over. That's not going to happen. Like if you couldn't have a red wave in this midterm, it's over. You're not winning back this country. Now, I'm not saying there's no chance that you could win the presidency in 2024. Maybe DeSantis can beat Joe Biden because Joe Biden's just such an old man and has such a terrible track record. But he's going to beat him with, at absolute best, very thin majorities in the House and Senate in the best case scenario. And you know what the problem with that is? Is that of those Republicans, about 80% of them are trash. So it's not even like if the Republicans have 51 seats in the Senate, and you know, you're not like, oh yeah, now the people who oppose the regime have the Senate. It's like, no, there's like four of them. You know, the rest of them are garbage. The rest of them are out there criticizing Joe Biden for not sending more weapons into Ukraine. And you're not there's no way you're going to, you know, retake control of the federal government and then actually rein in this kind of progressive long march that seems to be speeding up quite a bit over the last few years. It's not the, you know, the new normal is not going to be reined in through federal politics and any of this shit. But then the silver lining to that is that you could go, okay, so stop focusing on that. Since you can't win that, stop focusing on that. But what you can do is gain local control. What you can do is, you know, follow more of the DeSantis route, which is like why I wouldn't support DeSantis for president. I don't even think he should run for president. I think he should keep working to perfect Florida. Still a lot of work to be done there. Um, but that's like where the focus should be, on more local action, on more type of like nullification, decentralization, even maybe secession. But that's where the energy should go, because that's where you can actually make a difference. And the, you know, talking about all of this stuff, and that's why I've said for a long time that, especially in the LP, that all kind of like national politics, this is all just, it's message spreading. That's what we should be doing, is trying to wake up as many people and then funneling them into like local activity, because that's where things can actually change. Um, Someone said, question: would you run as VP if DeSantis asked you to? Uh, I don't think. First off, that would never happen. I don't think that would be good for him or me. I don't think DeSantis wants to explain why his VP hosts the Legion of Skanks, and I don't have any interest in like supporting supporting DeSantis. So I don't. The VP is a role that I would never do for anyone. Not like even someone like who I really agreed with politically on a lot of shit. Like I just wouldn't do that. It doesn't make sense. I'm not good in that role. I I my negatives are things that I think I can overcome because I'm me, and I kind of just, it just works for me. But for someone else to have to explain them, it would be difficult. And for the role of a VP is kind of to fall in line and be a support person for the presidential candidate. And I just disagree with DeSantis. I'm far too much shit to do that. So yeah, don't think so. Um, let's see. Okay, I'll answer a couple more questions and then I think I'm going to wrap this up. What do we got? Fire away. I like your views, Dave. Thanks for the podcast. No problem. Thank you for listening. I really enjoy doing it. Would you debate Styx Exenhammer again? Maybe about his election predictions and methodology? Maybe. I don't know. We already, debated. We'll probably like, I'm sure we'll fucking, podcast together or some shit like that, but, I messaged him about doing my show sometime, and he said he's down, but, so we'll probably podcast, but I don't think we'll do another debate. Um, okay, let's see, what do we got here? What do you think, about the ANCAP, candidate for president in Argentina? He's polling around 30% right now. Yeah, someone, sent me, something about this. I gotta look into it more. That is really interesting. I gotta make more of a deep dive, take a deep dive on that. Ronwell says, Dave Smith, would you debate Justin Amash in a 2024 Libertarian Party primary? Well, I challenged Justin Amash to debate recently. I'm down to debate whenever, sure. I like Justin a lot. No, nothing, no animosity there. We just have a different vision for like what the Libertarian Party should be, and what their presidential candidate's goal should be. And I'd be happy to debate him anytime. I'm not so sure he wants to, but I'd be happy to do it. Will says, how does McConnell being willing to tank seats if they're MAGA libertarian leading change your belief in the Libertarian Party? Well, it doesn't, but I think it should, challenge someone's belief in the Republican Party if they're a MAGA or libertarian type. What did I say? Who is your favorite winner in the House, Senate, or governor? Well, Massey and Rand Paul, definitely for the House and Senate. Governor, I guess DeSantis. Um, Ben says, you killed on the Blaze. Did you happen to catch the Jason Whitlock raging on Malice? Yes, I did catch that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I had fun on there. And yeah, I did catch that. Fucking that was look, man, he got all pissed off, but that was, as all of you guys probably know pretty well, that was Malice at his like kindest. I don't know what to say. All right, listen, I gotta fucking run because we're recording Legion of Skanks in like a few minutes here. So I gotta go. I love you guys. I'll put out a new part of the problem tomorrow. We'll go over a lot of this shit in a lot more detail. All right. See you later. Peace.